morning, cellists. Here we are on a fine sunny day, despite being a little chilly, in week 8 and looking at the second section of the Faure Apres Reve, and we'll also look at the next section of the Feuillard study of the week, number 15, and we've got a couple of technicals. Let's start with the technicals, as ever. No bowing exercise today, but really some thoughts on left-hand patterns, starting off with C minor arpeggio. No surprise there, the Faure is in C minor, and of course we have already have portions of the C minor arpeggio sitting within the work. So let's have a look at it. Initially with the standard fingering, and the standard fingering would be putting a first finger on the second note. Now that is a useful rule which you can apply to any arpeggio. Consider it. If you put your first finger on the second note, you can actually find a solution for major, minor, diminished, dominant seventh and augmented arpeggios. Great, less thinking. So try that out and see how the pattern feels under your hand. So today we're looking at the minor. The first finger therefore will go on my E flat, which you will probably know as standard fingering. So we go like this, open 1, 4, 2, stretch, shift up the G string, and we'll have another stretch to the third finger this time, stretch up, shift up the D string, and another stretch, but they're getting slightly less, of course, nearer we get to the bridge, shorter distances. Adding a 4th octave. Now at this point, my second finger is on a G. I need to rise to a perfect 4th to the top. If you keep your first finger down, you'll not reach it, so you'll need to let go the first, pivot on that second finger, and we can just reach the top note. Back to the second finger on the C, across, now in terms of those fingerings then, in the lowest positions we can use 1, 4, 2, and as soon as we've come into the neck area we're looking at 1, 3, 2. And in the case of the minor arpeggio, it's always a stretch, and then that distance between 1 and 3, this is E flat and G, you cut it in half physically and put your second finger across the string and you'll have the tonic note. And that's because, of course, in terms of a displaced interval, i.e. the physical distance across the strings between them, it's really a displaced tone between 2 and 3 and a displaced tone between 1 and 2. You know, if my second finger was on the same string, it's just exactly in the middle. Now I say that, and of course because the intervals are getting nearer and nearer the closer we get to the top, if anything that second finger would be fractionally nearer the floor. But really perceive it as halfway and you'll get a pretty decent accuracy at that point. The other thing to watch out for is, as you're coming down, that there's more of a sense of stretch when we return than when we go up. When you're going up, the hand is of course on the D string at this point, and then the second finger we're cutting the distance in half. And when you return, just having left the second finger on the A string, it's a little bit more uncomfortable to reach to that third finger. So it may well feel that you stretch it a tiny bit more, or crossing the string back down again. Just be aware of that. Now, the standard slur bowing, let's just think about that for a minute. It's normally 3 in a bow. But why not just change it? Do 4. 2, 3, 4. By changing it to 4, even if you only did a 3 octave arpeggio, you are changing the pattern for the bow to be not in sync with the left hand shifting and the left hand pattern, and that's really good to get better fluency of the left hand and connectivity. Give it a try. Now my other version is still on this arpeggio, but I just wanted to try different fingering. It's a really good idea to be a bit versatile, and it relates to preparing for the Faure. So instead of that standard fingering, we will start in first position, we'll move to third, and then we will shift up the instrument. So let's just try that out. Starting in first, moving here to a first finger on the C, stretch out to fourth position here, then shift up, I shift again, and the idea of this is that we've got this slightly awkward shift going up and down the instrument here, and you could play around with a little that's a lilting triplet, really, something like that, in order to kind of try and become more relaxed with the arm movement as you're moving backwards and forwards at this point, like this. So something to have a little try with, and to try and, you know, get more comfortable. If we always have the same solution, then you won't be as comfortable when you have to traverse the A string, and that's quite common in solutions within repertoire, where we're looking to kind of maintain tone colour, or you wanted the intensity and power of driving up the same string rather than a convenience of crossing. Okay, that actually counts as one of my two technicals, so that's the arpeggio, looking at two different finger solutions, two different bow solutions, and you can mix and match them, and you can just do it on 3 octaves rather than 4. The other thing I wanted to have a little explore of was another whole tone scale. We looked at one of these in a previous week, towards the end of the Bach series, I think. And I think it just sort of came to my notice thinking I'd love to put one in. Now, although this piece of music, the Faure, it's not explicit in the whole tone harmonies, which are absolutely characteristic of French Impressionist music of the turn of the last century, but there are hints within it. There is a moment, in bar 27, we have a little whole tone scale sitting in there. Beautiful, absolutely, such a really charming and dreamlike, evocative kind of tone colouring in there. And inspired by the idea of that very typical French Impressionist sort of sound of the whole tone scale, and looking at where we're getting to in the study, I'm thinking we can actually concatenate two ideas here and bring them together in the whole tone scale. I'll explain what I mean. In the Feuillard, which is in C major, and yesterday we just got to the point where we were about to arrive in its relative minor of A minor, and today we are moving into that relative minor's major version, so A major. We're getting to A major, and I'm looking at concatenating a portion of A major and a portion of C minor. And in actual fact, the portion of C minor I'm choosing is actually part of also E flat major. But if you take these notes as being part of our C minor and a bit of A major, we have a whole tone scale. We've concatenated the two. And in fact, that part that of the Faure I played you is part of that particular whole tone scale. So let's have a try. In terms of your getting comfortable with it, your probably best bet is to finger it always in groups of 3. If you like, you can imagine just beginning A major and beginning E flat major, you know, as a way to kind of latch into the way of the hand shapes and retrain your ear. So we have like A major, E flat, A, E flat, A, E flat. Here's a place you can use your little finger. It's quite a different feeling, and as I've mentioned before, it's not a standard part of the training process because it's never examined, which is a pity, so don't overlook it. Right, so moving on. The Feuillard study, we've got to bar 5, which is actually arriving here in A minor, and we're taking the melodic version. Fairly straightforward. We're in 4th position, crossing the string, and we're going to try a little stretch of the hand. That's quite a nice little shape. 1, 2, 1 stretch 2, and then 1 stretch 4. Which really prepares you for being in that place to stretch the G sharp. Don't forget to keep your first finger rooted so you have a real sense of the shape, that whole tone shape. In fact, shift back, stretch. Then this is all about stretches shifting between extended 4th and extended 1st. So you can remain lovely and stretched and just shift the hand back. I'll show you again. And that's it. So we're really sort of looking at hand extensions, and the bar that's particularly useful to use is bar 6, where we are preparing for that G sharp stretch. And after that, making sure you've got a fairly raised arm, looking at this point of the wrist, not allowing that to drop or you'll become very uncomfortable. You'll find it difficult to reach it. So keep that raised, but not crazy raised like this. Use your eye, you'll be able to see. If you've got a mirror, it's quite useful to see this fairly straight line from these top knuckles down to the elbow. The other thing you could do with this study, for a change of scene, is to do a whole bow and a bar, a whole bar and a bow, like this. And that's it. And this whole idea about the stretches, of course, it ties in with the whole tone scale, which is all full of stretches. That I showed you a short while ago. Right, now we're moving on to Faure. We have had our bars rest, which I needn't coach you with, and we're now beginning at bar 17. From the G to the C, rise. Now this rise, beg your pardon, remain in contact with the string. So the first finger, we're obviously starting from the 3rd, but the first finger is the one that's keeping the contact on the fingerboard. And slides to knock the 3rd finger out of the way and arrive at the C. Let's just see that again. So it's exactly the same as the opening. For quite a few bars actually, which is quite nice. It's just in the higher register. When we're working the higher register, your bow should be a little bit near the bridge. You probably do this by nature, but if you find that the sound is a bit woolly, not very clean, then you're probably not playing quite near enough the bridge. And that when you do play near the bridge, you find you need necessarily a little less bow speed or bow, you can have more pressure and less bow. So there's a couple of things in there. We have got a finger substitution from a 1 to a 2. Now this next bar is a really beautiful string crossing moment, which means flat bow hair. Now this one's always rather pretty because if you look back to bar 5, same notes, you could have the same fingering solution. It's quite nice that, and the feeling is really super. So if you feel a little out of your comfort zone here at bar 20, just go back the octave lower, play it with exactly the same fingers, and then take it back up to the top and notice the difference between where your bow is and how the fingers feel. And just a little heads up, it's possible that at bar 5 you're in half position doing 4-3 instead of 3-2. Either's fine. So just looking where we got to. Now here's a finger substitution moment. I'm on 2, I'm going to swap to 3, and my bow will pause momentarily like I did in bar 6. The rhythm's different here. So be careful that you make the difference, because previously we had da-dee-da-da. That little short A flat was just something a little quirky, a little something making one aware of the architectural oral shape, because it moved to the G. He actually writes in that crescendo there. Whereas this next time, the rhythm is different and there's no printed crescendo. You could do one, but let's take in mind that rhythm, that maybe it's being a little bit more blank, a little less optimistic at this point, as we just fall sublimely to this G. And it rests back on the G. I mean, I think I was a little bit hasty with the triplet there. Now there, between the long dotted min in G and the following one, of course, one's the end of a sentence, tia, ta, and if you're singing, you probably take a breath at that moment. So in a way, take some kind of a cello breath at that point. It's also a finger substitution shift, so we've arrived on an up bow in this particular solution. Now by changing the bow speed straight away, I immediately give you a sense of a completely new sentence, maybe a new voice. So the long G full bow is going to be obviously a slower speed. 1, 2, 3, 1. And if I'm using the whole bow for 1, obviously it's going to be quicker. This is a chance for us to try out the flautando bow technique that we were looking at yesterday. I think it's just absolutely perfect for this moment, so just try it out. Sorry. Now it's another little tiny change in the rhythm there. It may well have been to do with just fitting with words when it was first written, of course, but words are meaning, and rhythms can give us that sense of meaning too. So looking at bar 25, we're actually moving to a duplet before a triplet, whereas previously we had triplet. So in the same portion at bar 10 we had 2 Fs, and then a third. But this time, we just moved to a single F on a duplet, which means it's longer, and then into the triplet. Again, maybe a sense of this resignation, a little bit like the duplets that we have at 21. It's certainly different, it's broader, and maybe it's premonition to something that's coming, that a dissatisfaction, or we know that something is we're going to have a big rise later on. Is it despair? It's something a little unsettling. And actually I'm going to finish at this point, because what happens next is a deep and dark colour, and we're moving into different keys, which I think we want to explore together tomorrow. So the portion that we have today is this upper register. Story will unfold tomorrow. there's a few ideas in the pot there. Some things work the way you want and some don't. Try them out and see what works for you. Hope you're enjoying it. Bye.